back to the High Road Podcast. Today's episode is one I believe every single person needs to hear because disappointment is universal. No one escapes it, no matter how carefully we live, how many walls we build, or how many boundaries we put in place. There will always be moments when people let us down, when life doesn't go the way we hoped, planned, or prayed for. But here's the truth. Disappointment is not the problem. Fear is. And today we're going to talk about how you can stop living in fear of being disappointed and start living your life fully open and fully alive. Because every time we shut down, every time we close ourselves off or start living small just to avoid getting hurt again, we're not protecting ourselves. We're trapping ourselves. We're going to zone in on the power of choice. We don't get to control everything that happens to us. We can't control other people, their decisions, their loyalty, their love, their ability to show up. But what we can control is how we respond. And there's real power in that. In this episode, we're unpacking what it looks like to live openly, even when that means we might get disappointed again. We're going to talk about how to keep your heart soft in a world that sometimes feels hard, and how to respond to pain with healing. Not bitterness, not isolation, not avoidance, but real healing that lets you keep going without shutting down. We'll also dive into the why. Why do we as humans react so deeply to disappointment? What does the science say? What's happening in our minds and our bodies when people or situations don't meet our expectations? And most importantly, how can we reframe those moments so they don't define us? I'm going to share some personal stories, the kind that cracked me open and taught me how to stand back up. And I'll walk you through some practical tools and truths that can help you do the same, to keep choosing openness, to keep showing up to your own life, and to keep loving, hoping, and trying without fear being in the driver's seat. Because here's the thing. Being open is not weakness. It's the greatest strength you'll ever have. Avoiding, numbing, and shutting down might feel safer in the moment, but they cost us everything in the long run. Freedom, joy, connection, growth. So if you've ever felt let down, heartbroken, or like it's just easier to stop caring, this episode is for you. And if you've been living behind a wall, just trying not to get hurt again, this is your invitation to come back to life. Let's talk about how to keep going, even when disappointment shows up, and how to keep choosing you again and again. Let's get into it. Hey guys, it's your friend Maddie, and I am so incredibly excited for today's episode. The title is Disappointment is Inevitable, Defeat is Optional. And it's so important to me, it's so heavy on my heart for, of course, the reason of I have experienced this season, I'm currently going through it, and I run into people all the time that are talking about disappointment and not wanting to be disappointed again and kind of living in this world where they're just trapped. And maybe sometimes they're aware of it and sometimes they're not. In my case, I was not aware that I was trapping myself in this, season of my life where I wasn't really allowing myself to grow. I wasn't allowing myself to even face obstacles or experience any opportunities because I was so stuck on the fact that I was uncomfortable, being in situations that I didn't know the outcome to. that I didn't know if this person was going to disappoint me. I didn't know if this situation is going to disappoint me. I'm so incredibly fearful of rejection or fearful of something not going the way that I want it to, that I'm expecting it to. So therefore, I'm just not going to do it. And think of how many times in our lives we do that as people. We don't go for that goal. We don't go for that job. We don't go for that relationship because we're fearful of rejection. And these are things that can be so incredibly good for us, right? Like they can really, truly change our entire lives for the better. But because of the fear that we have as people, as humans, it's just what we do. We fear, and then it stops us from everything that could possibly be ours, for everything that really could be for us. And so I look back and I think of all the times in my life when I really, really struggled with this. Think about all the situations. Maybe you're expecting friends or family to support you during tough times. They don't show up. Maybe thinking that someone's is going to apologize, or acknowledge something that they did wrong or a way that they hurt you. And they never do. They never say sorry. How many times does that happen? We want someone to say sorry or to own up to something that they did, and they never do. Think about, being in a relationship and you want your romantic partner to maybe change a certain habit, and they never do. Not getting the promotion that you thought that you earned. A boss doesn't recognize or appreciate your hard work. Maybe you start a dream job only to find out it's not what you imagined. Setting high expectations for a project or a goal and then failing to achieve it. You're not only being let down and disappointed by other people, but even yourself. A birthday or a holiday where it just doesn't go as planned. Maybe no one calls, no one shows up. Maybe plans completely fall through. Or maybe someone forgets a milestone that you really, really cared about. Imagine right now your own personal disappointment. Something that you really want, something that you expect in a situation, in someone else, in another person. And then when it doesn't go your way, or think of a situation when you've been disappointed. And we've all been there because disappointment is inevitable. There's nothing that we can do to get around it. But as people, we certainly fight it. I fight it all the time. And as much work as I've done in therapy and as much, inner work and conversations that I've had with myself, disappointment is so hard, no matter what stage of life you're at. No matter if you are a person who's working on healing, a person who has no idea what that even means, someone who's mindful, disappointment is incredibly hard for everybody. And where my mind really began to shift, just like from what I felt like was just little disappointments to things that drastically rewired my brain, was I was really betrayed by people that I was close to, by people that I never would have done the things that they had done to me. I never would have done it to them, ever. I was lied to by people who I was hanging out with on a weekly basis. I was talked bad about and gossiped about by people who I never would have done that to. I never would have said anything bad about them. And those people were in positions where I thought that I could trust them. And so really going through this kind of hurt and pain and disappointment in my life really felt like I just couldn't trust other people. And so once I went through a season where I felt like it was just betrayal after betrayal, disappointment after disappointment, and something that I didn't expect would happen, and then it did. It was like, it was rewiring my brain to always be prepared for like the worst case scenario. So I kid you not, and this is something that I am working on literally today. My body, I bet you for years, like my nervous system, just was constantly prepared to go to war. Because the things that I really felt at one point so secure and so I felt like I could be safe. I felt like I didn't have anything to worry about. I felt like I could trust people. I felt like I could, be in situations and not be stabbed in the back by somebody. And then when those things happened, then my world flipped upside down. And when you're in situations like that, then it does kind of rewire you to be like, okay, I need to be prepared for this. This is what I need to be ready for. So then all of a sudden it's like you're in this fight or flight and you're ready just to go to war. You're ready for the worst case scenario whenever. So then these little things that happen in your life become really, really big because you are prepared for your life to be turned upside down. And then it kind of makes us feel like, okay, well, if I can't trust other people, the only person that I can trust is myself. So, I think that there's a really healthy part of, I'm thinking of like an introverted person. Because I think as I get older, I'm really pretty introverted. I really like to be home. I certainly can be social, but like if I'm going to choose to be at home and watching a movie, or like to be at like a really small gathering rather than a big one, or like be one-on-one with a person, that's going to be my light. That's going to be my thing. As you can see, I'm much into like talking through a computer and like having these conversations with an audience this way rather than like doing public speaking right in front of a large group. Like that's just not me. And for a long time I fought that. And now I've just really began to accept it. So I think that there's a really healthy way to like, be to yourself. But I think sometimes when we get into this mindset of like, okay, well, I can't trust anybody. I've been let down. I've been disappointed. So now it's like, screw everybody. I am the only person. And then it's like that I can trust. So then you find power in just you and only you. And that's not the real truth, because there is so much power in people coming together and people working together. There's so much power in that. And that's one thing that I've had to learn really, truly the hard way, honestly, because it got to the point for me where it was like I was extremely codependent on other people. And I really started working on that and like being by myself and working on myself. And then it got to the point to where I was almost like overboard independent. And like, then I really was so incredibly comfortable. And I think that was almost a little unhealthy, because then I'm trying to like work on the fact that I can be an individual who relies on other people and asks for help, and I don't have to all do it myself, and I don't have to all do it alone. And I think that's a huge thing of like being like, a single mom. For the single moms listening, that's just what you do, period. Like you just do the crap that you got to do, and that's it. Like you're not going to hear any ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I think that that's the point that I really got to. And so it was like, but then my mind Where it went was like, I'm not going to be disappointed by anybody, and it's just me, and this is where I'm comfortable, and this is where I'm safe. And to this day, I still kind of struggle with that thought, because I think that, I found my safe place. I think that I got really accepting and embraced who I was, and I did get comfortable. But I never wanted it to be unhealthy to where it was like, I'm Miss Independent, screw everybody else. Because I don't think that's healthy in any way, shape, or form. Like, I think that when women are like that, very much like, I am a girl's girl, right? That is who I am. But I also think if we're like, I'm independent, I don't need you, and I'm going to do this myself, like, that isn't the leadership mind. That isn't like the get stuff done. That's like, I'm just being stubborn. That's how I see it. And we hear those things all the time, and it's justified. Like, it is justified. Like, I look back and I think of all the times when I really was disappointed by people. Like, there was lots of times where I was like, you're in my way, like, move, because you're an obstacle for me, and this is what I'm trying to do. This is who this is who I'm supposed to be, or who I'm trying to be. And right now you're just in my way because you're screwing with my time. Because when people disappoint you, sometimes, actually a lot of the time, it's unintentional. But sometimes it's intentional. Sometimes people are just mean. Sometimes people are just idiots. Sometimes they're just fools. And they're lacking empathy, and they're lacking feelings. They're in their own little cycle of hurt. And therefore, we talked about this before, like on past episodes, when you're a hurt person, you're hurting other people. And all those things can lead to disappointment. And so when these things happen, here's where our mind goes. Here's where our body goes. Disappointment actually leads to a decrease in dopamine. So like the brain's pleasure chemical, right? So then it's going to contribute to a feeling of rejection and disconnection. Those are two things that really, really scare us people. We're scared of rejection. And as people, we're supposed to be connected. We are supposed to be connected to other people. Period. That's how it is supposed to be. So what happens? Well, our bodies start to panic. We go into fight, flight, or freeze mode. And I did a little research, and this is a blog on Vice Media by Kristen Dold. And what she says is this: that's because disappointment, no matter how it's caused, triggers a very predictable psychological response. The limbic system in your brain, all the parts that work together to generate emotion, fires up. Something bad is happening. Your lateral habenula, which is a small region of the brain that scientists have dubbed as the disappointment center, lights up and shoots off directions to the midbrain to halt the production of dopamine, also known as the brain's pleasure chemical. Without the hormone, you start feeling rejected and disconnected from your expectations. Like, this is not happening right now. So disappointment, whether it's from a life-altering job you didn't get, or crawling into bed at night and realizing the sheets are still in the wash, blows. We're also only just starting to understand how it works in the brain, but it could be the reason we're alive. It's an evolutionary response to maximize our survival. We feel disappointment deeply so we don't make the same mistakes again in the future, says neuroscientist Christophe Proul, a professor at Laval University in Quebec. If you're an animal in the wild, you don't leave your food out unprotected after a grubby gopher steals it. Think of that. Think about the truth in that and what she just said. What she says in that blog is that disappointment has this benefit to it. It actually helps us survive, right? If we're going to think about it from a positive aspect, it's going to help us not do things over and over again, not make unnecessary mistakes. It's going to help us understand that, okay, this feeling is really powerful and we don't want to go through it again. Or this is really uncomfortable. Let's not do it again. And they had this example in the blog about, an animal in the wild. Well, an animal in the wild, after it had its food taken the night before, it's not going to leave it unprotected the next day. It's not going to leave its food there because it's knowing how to survive now. It learned from a mistake, and that disappointment led to an uncomfortable, like an immense amount of discomfort. If you are without food as an animal in the wild, okay, this is the day that now this is really going to impact my survival. I don't have energy. Maybe I'm not able to, get away from a predator. Now what am I going to do if I don't have food tomorrow? Well, eventually I can starve to death. All of these things that could potentially be going through an animal's mind, right? But as people, that really is a very nice example or metaphor to what happens to us. Is we have these uncomfortable feelings with disappointment and we're like, I don't want to go through that again. I'm thinking about the times when I went through those really disappointing situations with people in my life that I trusted. And then I got really, betrayed by them. And I was so incredibly disappointed. My world was turned upside down. I was like, yep, I'm never going through this again. That is for sure. And so that's a benefit to it because it teaches us how to survive. But at the same time, then it's like, okay, how do we not stay stuck there? Because even in my current season, there's parts of me that still stay stuck there. That still is like, yep, I'm not going through that again. I remember what that felt like a few years ago. I'm for sure not doing that now. So now what do I do? Well, now I'm preparing for like these natural disasters to happen. I'm prepared to go to war because at one point that was my life. And if you've ever felt this way, like if there ever is a time where maybe you went through something that was really traumatic, you went through something that was really, really hard, very, very disappointing, and now it's like maybe these little situations come up and you're triggered by something, or you're not quite sure why you're reacting to something the way that you are. It could be because you don't want to be disappointed. If it was something that you were really disappointed by at one point in your life, it could be now that you're fearing that thing of happening again. And it's justified. Your body, we have to remember that your nervous system holds on to those feelings. Your nervous system holds on to those stressors. I probably was stressed like constantly every single day from waking up to going to bed. I mean, for at least consistently 6 months to a year at one point, like consistently every single day. My body held on to that. My body just couldn't let that go. That's a major event. When your body goes through stress, like disappointment. And again, like I'm not just talking about disappointment like you don't get what you want. Right? That's totally different. We're talking about this disappointment that really can affect you. That really affects, like, you're hurt by it. Right? We're not just not getting our way here. This is something that, like, is stressful. This kind of disappointment can alter your life. And when you're in something like that for more than 6 months, it actually can be known as a traumatic event. And so when I actually started therapy a few years ago, I started to really process the disappointment. I remember going to my therapist one day and just being like, man, I just cannot handle disappointment. I'm talking like I feel like I'm crawling out of my skin. I feel like I'm going to lose my mind over like the smallest inconvenience. And, it wasn't like the smallest inconvenience, but at the same time, that's how I was perceiving it. I'm like, man, why do these things bother me this much? And I feel like nobody else is seeing these things or like these disappointments. I feel like everybody else can just kind of brush them off. And so I really started to dig deep into, okay, why do disappointments by other people, why do disappointments by, in certain situations, like why do I process them the way that I do? Why do I fear rejection and disconnection so much? And I look back and I think I really had to dig into, my childhood. And a huge person that I was disappointed by was my biological father. And I don't remember much. I do remember being disappointed by him. I do remember his environment that he provided was unstructured and, never consistent. And a lot of that, I believe, I remember talking to my mom, and she would tell me kind of how I would react, and she knew that I didn't remember a whole lot, but she'd be like, but, it was heartbreaking to me because I would see you disappointed. And so I'm thinking now, I believe that my body, my nervous system probably held on to those things because, when I was maybe excited to see my biological father and he didn't show up, or maybe when I was expecting him to do something with me or to act a certain way towards me and he didn't do those things. As a child, I believe I probably was disappointed. And that led to, the rewiring of my brain and some stress in my nervous system. I believe that I held on to those things. And then it didn't help then when I grew up and then I was in relationships with men, then that greatly disappointed me. And, that really put me in a place to where I had to choose okay, how am I going to handle this disappointment? And how am I going to not stay trapped in this place where I just feel like I'm ready to go into fight or flight at any given moment? I'm prepared for the worst. Don't ask me to do something. Don't put me in the position to where I can rely on you. Just don't do it. I can rely on myself. That's it, period. And think of how much I was trapping myself. I mean, I look back and I think of, yes, it's valid, but at the same time, I wasn't living my life to the fullest when I was living like that. Because if we don't heal from these things, they really do keep us trapped. And like I told you before, this is something currently that I'm having to really tweak. It's one thing to go to therapy or to talk about it or, to really process disappointment and your coping mechanism to it and the things that disappoint you and how you're going to handle it. But then when you're actually in the situation and you actually have to use those skills now, you're not just talking about it, now you're actually doing it. That's hard. So, for the first time in my life, I would say that I'm actually in a very healthy relationship with a very safe partner who is loving and kind and just everything that I could have imagined for me, for my children. But what is one thing that I do? Because now it's like, man, this is almost too good, right? Now I'm someone who's waiting for the shoe to drop. I'm just waiting for something to go wrong. Why? Because I'm used to that disappointment. Because I am ready to, I'm mentally preparing for something to go wrong. And why do we do that? Why do we prepare for something to go wrong? Well, we do it so that it doesn't hurt so bad. And that's exactly what I've always done. I'm like, okay, if I'm prepared for this to happen, it's not going to hurt so bad when it actually does. And think about that. In my relationship now, if I don't fix that thinking where I'm so fixated on what could go wrong and the future, I could end up ruining everything that I have right now, right in front of me. I think that's so sad. And think as people, how many times do we do that? We do that in so many situations. We do that with so many people where we end up just trapping ourselves because we're not living openly. We're not living in the present. We're living for everything that could go wrong in the future. And it's a scary thought, but there's going to be something. There's going to be something that doesn't go right, that doesn't meet our expectations, that's going to disappoint us. But we still have to be able to live openly and to keep moving forward and to keep being resilient and not letting situations that haven't even happened yet because we're worried about about disappointment or things that other people decided to do or something that was out of our control with the situation. We can't let those things then control us and keep us trapped in that fear, keep us trapped in that discomfort, because then we will never be able to grow and to reach all of the opportunities that are meant for us. So what are some tools that we can use? How can we not just survive, but thrive in a world where disappointment is inevitable? The first thing that you can do is allow yourself to feel. Don't suppress your disappointment. It's okay to feel sad, frustrated, upset. It's okay to feel the things that you're feeling and know that they're validated. I was at a point where I just felt like, okay, I'm feeling disappointed and I don't know why, and I must just be crazy. No. If you're feeling it, it is for a reason. And sometimes it's okay if you don't even know what that reason is. Just know that your body, your mind, like you are responding to it in a way for a purpose. And I encourage you to dive deep and to find out what that is. But just know in the meantime that it is okay. Your feelings are okay. And you should not suppress them. You should allow yourself to feel them. Another thing that I would encourage you to do is reframe your perspective. I want you to challenge your negative thoughts. Oftentimes, disappointment leads to these negative thought patterns. And I'm like nearly laughing at myself because I'm thinking, yeah, they absolutely lead to these negative thought patterns where it's like, okay, this could go wrong. And then it's just like a snowball of all of a sudden you're at worst case scenario. And then all of a sudden it's like almost irrational. And that's really where my mind goes if I don't stop that, if I don't find a way to like reframe how I'm thinking something, because it really just does. It just continues to be this consistent pattern of negative, out of control thoughts. So practice mindfulness and maybe even adjust your expectations. The best advice that I ever received actually was from my sister. She asked me one time when I was really struggling with, I think it was like a conversation that I was having with someone and I was kind of telling her how I felt and what happened. And she was like, what was your expectation going into that? And I was like, what do you mean? I just told you. She's like, no, you didn't have an expectation there. Like, what is your expectation? Like, you told me how you feel. You told me how you responded. You told me how that person responded. You told me like the details in the middle. She was like, but what is your expectation? What is your end goal here? Sometimes we get disappointed because our expectations are just not quite realistic. And that's okay, but we just need to be more mindful and really process and think about, okay, what do I want from this? Another thing that I really encourage you to do is practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Treat yourself with the same compassion that you would offer a friend facing a similar situation. All of our feelings, everything that happens when we face disappointment or if we're worried about disappointment, those things are all okay. And the only thing that is going to stop us from growing is if we don't give ourselves compassion, if we don't give ourselves grace. Understand that this is a learning curve for us. We have to be able to handle it, especially if you have faced an immense amount of disappointment in your life. Yeah, you're going to have to learn how to cope with it in a healthy way. Not suppress it, not shut down, not go into fight or flight. And this means not criticize yourself. Don't dwell on your mistakes or blame yourself. Just learn from your experience without giving yourself so much harsh judgment. One of the last things is seek support. The best thing that I ever did was go to therapy and find a therapist that was for me. And that took a little bit of time, and that took, different appointments and things like that. But I really, really wanted it. I wanted someone who was maybe not my family, not my friends, someone who I could really go to, who could ask me hard questions, who could help me reflect, who could really just help me dive deeper into a conversation that I needed to be having with myself. And it changed everything about my brain, about my perspective on life, and my ability to handle disappointment. And I had to give myself credit. And the very last one that I have for you today is to focus on your future. Set new goals for yourself. Once you've processed your emotions, shift your focus to setting new goals and taking steps towards achieving them. And make them bigger than yourself. We can't be so focused on other people and other situations that when then they don't meet our expectations, when they don't do what we want them to, or when something doesn't go the way that we want it to and we're disappointed by it, we can't let that just keep us in a frozen state. We have to be able to, yes, feel the things that we need to, but then we need to be able to move on. And we need to zone in on us and control what we can and choose how we're going to respond. And that means that we're going to continue to work on our goals. So find this healthy balance between this reliance and, connection with people, and understanding that we are supposed to be connected with others, but also finding that really healthy balance of, I got this and I have goals for myself. And I can't control what you do, and you can't control what I do, but you know what? I'm surely going to do the very best that I can. And I'm not going to allow other people and other situations to control me. And honestly, view any setbacks as learning opportunities. Embrace disappointments with people and situations just as chances for growth and development. Because as people, we don't live in a world without disappointment. We have it, it's there, it's going to happen. No matter if we shut down or if we don't, it's going to happen. But we have the chance and the choice and the opportunity to live a full life. To be open, to try relationships again, to try to apply for jobs again, to apply for that position again. In this life, we have opportunities to get a second chance, to try again, and to keep going and to keep moving forward without allowing us to stay in that place of disappointment or fear of rejection. So if you take anything from today's conversation, let it be this. Disappointment doesn't get the final word. You do. Every single time life lets you down, you have a choice. You can close off, give up, or stay stuck. Or you can rise, open your heart, and choose to keep living boldly. Disappointment will always come, but it's not a reflection of your worth, your strength, or your future. It's just a reminder that you're human, that you care deeply, and that you're alive. So don't let fear of being hurt keep you from the joy of being alive. Keep hoping, keep loving, keep trying, because your best days are not behind you. They are still in front of you. Thank you so much for being here with me today, for taking the high road. If this episode spoke to you, subscribe to our newest YouTube channel for more conversations like this, because every week we're walking this road together, one step closer to growth healing, and truth. I'll leave you with this. Stay open, stay brave, and remember you're stronger than every disappointment you've ever faced. I'll see you in the next episode. And just remember, disappointment is just proof that you cared enough to hope. So don't ever stop hoping. God bless you.